Hey besties and bosses, this is like take 3 or something like that. I think we are live. I think we have the rotation correct. I'm so excited to hang with you. I apologize, we are a little bit late. I do not like to be late, but I've been trying for the last 10 minutes or so to go live, and I don't know what happens. I just tried updating my app. I tried going live from Zoom. I tried from here. We've been having all the tech things. So I think we got this working. I don't usually have myself set up in this direction, but I think we got enough of the camera thing working here. Hopefully those of you who are on will find this and hop back on so that we can have our conversation, because today's convo is one I really want to dive into. I also just got back from a week off. I missed you all last week. I took a week and unplugged. I was calling it my honeymoon anniversary, but I had my 1-year wedding anniversary. I've been with my husband almost 8 years, but we had our 1-year wedding anniversary and we celebrated and spent a beautiful, glorious week together last week. And so I obviously wasn't live. Just adjusting a few things here. And I missed all of you. So for our giveaway this week, usually we do one of my courses, but I'm going to give away one of our content that stands out and sell strategy sessions. I'm fully booked. We don't usually give away free sessions unless it's a masterclass or something like that. So all you have to do to enter is leave a comment, say hi if you're live or on the replay. Hopefully we will catch these replays and we will reach out at the end of the week to someone to win that session. I can't wait to connect with any of you. I'm like so happy to be back. I had the best trip and the best time away. I always say to my clients to remember that time away and that time for you and that time to unplug supports you in your business as well. But I also think it's so important, such a testament to building businesses we love and work we love, that I felt so happy to be back and to see my clients. I really missed them. So happy to be back with y'all here as well. So today, what we are talking about, I'm like a little tripped out by all this, but we're gonna make this all work. What we are talking about today is how my clients get booked out without using social media. It's really funny. 2 things are funny about this topic. I plan these topics months in advance. I actually want to make sure we're actually live in the group since we had so many tech issues here. But as we plan these topics months in advance. Okay, yes, it is working. Just wanted to make sure, because we're definitely having the technical difficulties. If you're saying hi again, say hi, leave a comment on the replay or now, and you'll be entered to win that free coaching session. But what's funny about this topic is I was literally talking about this with a client yesterday, and she will probably think this topic is about her, but we pick these topics months in advance, or at least, I wouldn't say months, but a couple weeks to a month and a half in advance. And I think it's just so helpful to see how relevant this topic is when I see it coming up with clients as well. So I'm hoping this will be really relevant for everyone watching now and later on the replay. And what I think is also really fascinating about this topic and getting booked out without using social media is when I came into the online space about, it's been about 6.5 years. In March, it'll be 7 years. So I've been in business for 6.5 years. When I came into our space, the whole idea of getting booked out using the online space was kind of the thing that blew people's mind, where it was like, I had people tell me there's no way you can use social media to market your business. That's only for like the big people. And it's just so funny to see how the pendulum swings. And now I think the narrative is a little bit more, you can't build a business offline, you have to use social media. And I think what's really helpful to see there is just how many stories we always want to tell, no matter what is going on, no matter what the climate, no matter what's happening in business, no matter what's trendy. And we just always want to have a story for why something can't work. And we always have this belief for like, here's the magic pill, here's the magic bullet. And I think what's helpful to see here is it's all true and it's all not true. But what's really true is we get to choose and see what strategies work for us, and whatever you works. But one of the things I put in the email for this, if you're on my email list, was just talking about how businesses existed for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years, but businesses have existed far before social media. And what we so often think with social media, and what I talk to my clients about a lot, is so often we think social media is the secret or the magic bullet, or we just have that mentality where we're looking for that secret. And social media, like anything, social media is not the strategy. Social media is more the tool. And we just tend to look for these things thinking like, this is going to be, now social media is the thing that's going to work for you, or now social media is not the thing that's going to work for you. And instead, what I want us to have a conversation about is seeing, how do we get back to business foundations? How do we get back to some business principles and see what actually helps you to get booked out, and how can you get clear on some of those things that work for you, so that you can see, social media or not social media, you can build a business on your terms. So today what we're going to talk through is a couple of client case studies of clients who have not used social media, who have gotten booked out, who are making multiple six figures, up to almost $1 million without using social media. I'm going to go through some client case studies, talk through some of the mindset and then some of the practical strategy they've used to get booked out without using social media. And what feels important to preface here is I love social media. I'm on social media right now. I've booked out my business. We've been booked out for a little over maybe 4.5 years. We make multi-six figures. The majority, I'd say 90% of my marketing happens online. 90% of my clients come from online. So I personally love social media. This is not a conversation about don't use social media, do use social media, now you shouldn't be on social media, or you should be on social media. This is a conversation about seeing it's not about the tool, it's about the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action we apply to a tool. Social media is a tool, just like offline can be a tool, and it's looking at what are some of those practical foundational elements. And so you can take from this some evidence of what can work if you don't want to use social media, or if you want to see some other opportunities, get back to some of the basics that work in business, on or offline, because again, business has been around a whole lot longer than TikTok. Businesses have been making millions and billions of dollars before TikTok or whatever the newest thing. There's some new apps someone was telling me about that I haven't even heard of yet, right? But I think just remembering those things, and we can still use those tools, right? I love social media. You can still use those tools to make money in your business. So I want to go through some of those client case studies and walk through some of the mindset pieces that are important, as well as some of the practical strategy. And what I want to invite you to take from this conversation is some evidence of what's possible, so you can see, again, what's possible for you is what you decide is possible, and then what strategy you decide to work, and really you get to choose a strategy that works for you. And then take a look here as we're talking through this and see, is there anything you want to apply? Not how do you now go change up your strategy and decide you're going to go offline or offline. Is there anything you want to apply to the foundation, to the practical basics of your overall business strategy for booking in clients? Whether you use, I'm like all twisted around here, y'all, because of the camera angle tilt. But whether you use social media or not, today's conversation is going to be really beneficial for that. So hopefully this will all make sense for you. Give me questions if you got them, throw them at me as we're talking through this. I'm just pulling up my notes here because there are a lot of things I want to say here, and I wanted to make sure I also gave you some great examples here. So in terms of, before we dive into those case studies, in terms of some of the practical mindset and foundational strategy that I think is really important to remember here with social media on or offline, and what I see trip people up in business. And again, this is on or offline, but I find particularly with the online space, what so often happens is we get into this mindset where we start treating the things we're doing on social media like a checklist, and we just start phoning things on or checking things off a checklist instead of really remembering what actually builds a business. If we kind of boil it down and we look at what marketing is and what sales are based on, it really comes back to starting relationships, building relationships, getting really curious about your people and what problems and challenges they have, and how you can keep getting better and better at helping them solve those problems and challenges, right? That's really, if we just boil down business, that is what business is all about. That is what marketing is about. That is what sales is about. That's kind of what we're all in the game of, right? That has nothing to do with a TikTok reel. That has nothing to do with a Clubhouse room, right? That's really online, offline, that's what we're in business for. And we sometimes forget that when we just get so wrapped around the tool we're using. And so what I find happens sometimes in terms of the mindset that can trip us up online, that really can support us to kind of zoom back out, and how you can really look at getting booked out on or offline, is getting back to some of those foundational principles and just taking a look at where are you starting to look at your marketing strategy, your sales strategy as just a checklist item. And particularly online, where might you be just like, I'm just going to do this thing. If I can just figure out how to like hack this tool, that's going to bring in clients, as opposed to how can I get back to basics and see how am I opening up relationships? How am I deepening relationships? How am I building relationships and connections? And then specifically, how am I getting curious about those people, the problems and challenges they have as it relates to my skill set, and how I can just get better and better and better at solving those problems and making offers to those people that I have relationships around to solve those problems, right? And we can start to see that doesn't need social media. That can happen anywhere. Hopefully this is tracking. So it's both a mindset and strategy piece, but I find we just forget that sometimes. And so then when we're struggling to book clients on or offline, so often it's because we're missing the very opportunities in front of us to open a relationship, to deepen a relationship, to build a relationship, to solve a problem, right? To make an offer to solve a problem, to do these very things, because we're stuck in that checklist mentality, as opposed to that business, marketing, and sales mentality, which is really more people, human, service driven, problem solving first. Let me know if that's making sense and if that's tracking. So if we then take that offline, we can start to see how you can take those same business principles. And if we take that checklist mentality out of the way, there's often so much opportunity sitting in front of you offline that you can really lean into in terms of opening a relationship, building a relationship, deepening that relationship, looking and being curious about what problems and challenges your people have and how you can get better and better at solving those problems and challenges and offering a solution around it, right? Is that tracking to where it's just like, this is not a social media, not social media. This is not a TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or go to a networking event thing. This is just a basic business thing. And when we can get our brain back on board with that, we can start to notice opportunities and see clients everywhere. And so I'm going to walk through some actual client case studies and the practical, like the actual tangible, like these are the things they did. But I want you to see that mindset shift there, which is the mindset shift is really starting to see it's not a platform thing. It's not a check this like thing off. It's not a like, oh my gosh, Instagram's not working for me or LinkedIn doesn't work for me. It's the mindset of there are opportunities and clients everywhere. There are opportunities to open up a relationship and be of service everywhere. And when you have that mindset, you start to notice those opportunities everywhere. And that's how you can start to book your next client at that coffee shop you go to. I literally booked a client, one of my dear clients, we met at the gym I used to go to, right? Just by opening up a relationship, building that relationship, deepening the relationship, being curious. I didn't even know this was someone who was in business, but being curious about their problems, being curious about how I could help them solve their problem and making an offer. Right? That didn't require anything other than me showing up and doing those very fundamental things, but it required the mindset first that there are opportunities and clients everywhere. It's not platform specific. It's not how do I find the hack and the secret to like boost the algorithm and get enough likes and then therefore I'll get booked out. None of that ish has to do with actually what goes into getting booked out. Sarah says that makes sense. Thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that. So I want us to take that mindset as we go through some of these case studies and to see, because otherwise it's just going to sound like, oh, Kim's saying fuck social media and just go to the coffee shop and I'll get booked out. And what I want you to see is like, I love social media. Again, this is not a social media conversation, but it's starting to see it's always the mindset. It's always the clarity around your business, your model, your marketing, right? It's always that mindset piece. Notice there are opportunities. There are clients everywhere. There isn't a magic pill. And then it always comes back to your strategy and your action. This just happens to be the core foundational strategy piece that you can apply on or offline. Hi, Shari. Nice to see you here. Or see you, pretend see you. We had all the tech issues. Shari, you have to, I don't know if you go live on Facebook. You have to tell me if you're having tech issues too. We're like twisted in the wrong direction today because we could not get Facebook to get along with us. So that is the first piece on the mindset part. In terms of before I go through those case studies, one of the practical pieces in terms of strategy that I like to have all my clients think about, even if they are leveraging social media, is something, this is a horrible term, but I don't know a better way to phrase this, but it's something I call low-hanging fruit strategy, meaning taking that reminder of so much of business really and truly is about opening a relationship, building a relationship, deepening that relationship, getting curious about the problem someone has that you can solve, and then making that offer to solve that and just getting better and better at solving those problems. And I think what happens so often when people start a business and they want to get booked out, especially in our online space where there's so much noise about like, here's the way to make $1 million in 5 seconds flat, we start chasing all of these kind of complicated ways to bring in clients. And so often we miss the low-hanging fruit opportunities in front of us. And I just think that's a kind of crappy term. But what I mean by that is the opportunities that if we think about a tree that aren't at the top of the tree, that you don't have to climb all the way to the top of the tree and make it super hard on yourself, that are just dangling in front of your face. And what I see happen for so many people is there are so many clients sitting right in front of their face. There are so many people they can either open up a relationship with or just say, hey, do you need my services? Can I help you? Can we hop on a call? Can we talk about this right in front of them? Many people can get booked out just by the people they already know in front of them, but we're climbing to the top of the tree and trying to climb to the top of the tree instead and missing what's in front of us. And usually halfway up the climb to the top of the tree, that's when people get discouraged. That's when people quit. That's when people decide to start a whole new different business. And that's where a lot of the complication in business happens. Shari says, no, I haven't done Facebook recently, but I've noticed glitches on my IG app, so who knows what's happening in the metaverse. It feels very meta as well, even though that's not the metaverse. You mean in that I'm talking about not using social media to get booked out today. And social media, it's like they knew and they were a little PO'd at me. But social media, I still love you. 90% of my marketing is on social media. Get along with me. We're on the same team here. Anyway, don't mind me talking to Facebook like you can hear me, though it probably can't hear me. So with this, whether you're using an online social media marketing strategy or an offline strategy, I'd invite everyone to think about, and this is something I have to remind myself too when I'm looking to fill a client spot, is I always go first to who are the low-hanging fruit opportunities in front of me? Who do I already have an open relationship with? Who has already been in front of me? Who's already in my sphere that I can reach out to, that I can follow up with, that I can have a conversation with, that I can invite into a call, instead of how can I try to make this so complicated to climb to the top of the tree by trying to, do some complicated new thing on Instagram to try to get in front of someone new. Again, I love Instagram. I'm not hating on social media, but I think this can help really simplify this for everyone, because I would wager for most people, there's at least one person on your tree that's in front of you that maybe you just haven't noticed before, or is worth reaching out to one more time, or that's worth having a conversation with or inviting into a conversation. And that is one of the ways my clients get booked out, not using social media. Sarah says the twitchiness has been across the board with the online programs, LOL. I'm just happy to know. I'm happy to know it's not just me. So thank you for both sharing that. So in terms of some specifics, if you're going to play with how can you book clients without using social media, and I think what's interesting here again is even if you are using social media as your main marketing strategy and the main way you connect and build relationships, right? 90% of what I do is online. I think just seeing there's still opportunity for all of us. I've still booked clients offline, and I don't want to leave money on the table because I'm closed off to that opportunity. So I think this is important for all of us and just a great mindset to be taking in business. I think it's also honestly just helpful for us to take that frame, because when we have the mindset that we can book clients on or offline, we're no longer giving our power away to platforms and tools. We take the power back as business owners and see, oh wait, I am someone who can book clients, period. I am someone who can get booked out, period, because business foundational principles work and I know how to work them in my business, and I can work them offline. If Facebook goes away tomorrow, I can work them online. If I love to show up on social media because I don't want to put on real pants, that's my story, right? So I think it just helps you take your power back there and just feel a little bit more safety in your business as well. So this is like so basic, y'all, but I want everyone just to see how fucking basic this can be, and that getting booked out doesn't have to be more complicated. And I want to be very mindful that what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be more complicated. That doesn't mean it's always easy. Of course, I think business can be very challenging. And I think when you're going from zero to getting booked out, that is the hardest phase in business. That's not to create a story. I just think there's a lot of learning curves. There's a lot that has to get put into business there. And so I want to normalize that. We talk a lot about the gap phase in business in this group, and I think that's so important to normalize, but it's already challenging enough, and that there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of growth edges there. I think no one needs to make it more challenging than it already is by making it more complicated than it needs to be. And I think a lot of the strategies we're going to talk about here get to be super fucking simple and basic. And the more basic you can make your business, the more money it's going to make, right? The more basic, the more bank, I think, is the way we can think about it. So one of my clients, when they started working with me, I think they might have had a single client. I can't honestly remember. And they got booked out within our first 6 months work. Actually, within 3 months of working together, they got booked out. They replaced their corporate salary, and they're now using social media as well, but they're now on track for an 800K plus year. And when we look at them getting booked out in 3 months without using social media, right? It's not like they had a big social media following or they had another business before or any of that. The main practical strategy they used, and they got booked out in a way where they were replacing I think it was either a six or multi-six figure salary. The main strategy they used was simply, and this is something I encourage a lot of my clients to do. We talk a lot about taking sales actions every day and taking 1 to 2 sales actions. For this client, we just got really specific on having them leverage their personal network and having those 2 sales actions every day be with their personal network, and get ballsy and every day reach out to 2 people and invite 2 people in or ask 2 people to refer them out for a sales conversation. Basically, this is someone who's a coach. They were offering a free coaching call. Now, a lot of us don't want to do that because that's vulnerable, right? And I mean, that's where all the mindset stuff can come up. But if we actually look at the practical strategy there's not a whole lot of complication there. This is someone where we worked on their messaging. They definitely needed to get clear on that. And that was something that was very helpful. So when they reached out to people, right, they knew what they were inviting people into. And we had to do some work on the back end in terms of sales process so they could have sales conversation and navigate some of the stickiness coming up around those conversations. So again, I don't want to make this seem like it's so simple, you'll get booked out in 3 seconds flat if you just do this one thing, because I think that's the kind of noise that can get all of us in our heads. But I want you to see how that wasn't because they had an Instagram reel that blew up yesterday. That's not because they got onto TikTok. That's not because their Facebook group blew up. That's not because they had a massive audience. That's not because they leveraged their last business. It's because they did the more vulnerable thing and they leveraged the people in front of them, the low-hanging fruit, right? And they just kept reaching out. And if you think about that, if you reach out to 2 people a day, let's say you work 5 days a week, that maybe takes 10 minutes, but in 10 minutes a day, you're over the course of a month reaching out to at least 20 people. If you're reaching out to at least 20 people who already have a relationship with you, who already know, like, and trust you, right? So much of what we're doing on social media is we're building the know, like, and trust. I'm here building know, like, and trust with you. But for many people, they don't know me, so they need to build that know, like, and trust. If you're reaching out to your personal network, you've already done that legwork there. Or if someone's referring you to someone else, there's already an element of that built in. So that's actually a lot faster of a process. You can see how if you're doing that, then how over 3 months, if that's minimum 20 people a month, that's 60 people over 3 months, you can see how, well, if you're reaching out to 60 people and those 60 people are keeping their ears out and sending your name out to other people, how suddenly that's a pretty large pool of people where if you're doing one-on-one work and you want a handful of clients, you can see how you could get booked out and replace your income. Now, again, I want to be mindful. We're saying there can still be the challenges that come up. You still have to get clear in your messaging and your sales process. We're not saying like, blink your eyes, do this thing, and business is supposed to be miraculous, because I think that's what create stories for people. But I do want you to see how easy it is to create stories about how hard it has to be or how you can't book a client. And instead, I want you to start to see how you can apply basic business principles on or offline. And these are simple things everyone can do to book their next client or to get booked out. Hey, Nika, nice to see you here. Let me know if I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but let me know if anyone has a question around that at all. I will say as well with this client, they recently raised their rates and had some spots open up, and we did some social media promos. I'm like still trying to figure out how to set this thing up properly, but we did some social media promotions, and I still think their most recent spots that got filled were still from their personal outreach, because that's not something we've let go of. We're still from their personal outreach and the efforts they've made consistently to really keep that network strong. And so what I'd say with something like this is the reason this worked for that person and the reason like the low-hanging fruit strategy was so beneficial is they weren't just like, how do I just like spray and pray to everyone I've ever known and like hope they'll send me clients. They really worked on also deepening those relationships with those people, making sure they could have an even energy exchange and do something for that person, and then following up with people to stay in touch with them, right? They really focused on those relationships and the relationship aspect, not just the how can I get something from this person aspect. And I think that's analogous to the online space as well, right? When social media works for us well, when we can use social media as a tool, and it's working well for us as a tool, it's often because we're looking at how can we have that energy exchange, not how can we just try to get something from it. And I think that can just be a mindset shift wherever, if you're going on or offline. Okay, so I have another client. I'm just gonna go through the client examples, but if you have questions, throw them at me. I have another client who came to me and I think they had one client, and I remember one of our conversations, this client was pretty much convinced it was impossible for them to make real money as a coach, and that was just like a pipe dream. And I just remember we had a whole conversation around that, and they got booked out they had a 20K month. They got booked out within 6 months, our first 6 months of working together, and hit a 6-figure year. And they fought me on content and social media the entire time, which I think is actually really helpful to hear, because I want everyone to, I love content, I love social media, and I think it's just so helpful to hear my way, or the way I do things, does not need to be the way my clients do things. Many of my clients, as you're hearing here, do not use the strategy I use, but you can also hear how that doesn't mean I'm not gonna advocate for some things I think work, and how it's okay to disagree with your coach, and sometimes that can be really beneficial. And they just fought so hard against this, and so we really worked on finding something that would work for them instead. And I don't even know if to this day if they're posting content. And I think that's actually such great evidence, because I preach content. I think content is invaluable, and it has built me a multi-6-figure business. And I want you to also see evidence of businesses that really aren't using social media at all and aren't putting out content that are making 6 figures or more, just so you can see that evidence and see there's so many ways, and we just get so locked into like there's only this one way and I must be doing something wrong otherwise, or we just don't show up at all. So take that as some evidence. And what worked for this client, what I'm hoping you're noticing through these examples, is what worked for one person wouldn't work for another client. And so much of the invitation in this conversation here is, yes, getting back to some of those foundational principles in business and not forgetting those on or offline, but also getting your eyes back on your own paper and seeing what works for you. How do you thrive? How do you shine? This is a client who shines in teaching, and they are excellent. Like that is just like one of their happy places. And so one of the strategies we really leveraged was getting them in teaching opportunities. And it's not like they sat around offline. They're like, well, online doesn't work. I don't want to do content. I'm not going to do anything, right? That wasn't the fight. It was instead, what do we find what works for you? And what worked for this person was really getting themselves into communities where they could teach and where they could guest teach and build relationships that way and show their expertise that way. And that is how they got in front of new people, right? That's how they started new relationships. That's how they built relationships. That's how they got curious about the problems their people had, were able to speak to those problems and challenges, offer a solution, right? And bring in clients. And that worked really quickly for them to get themselves booked out. And so again, this isn't like, here's a magic pill solution, but I really hope this is helping you see there are so many paths. And the more you get curious about what's that path for me, and then show up for that path for yourself, the more you can see like there's low-hanging fruit and there's opportunities everywhere. And it really and truly doesn't have to just look the way whoever's shouting online the loudest is telling you. So that's another person who I don't even think they're on social media to this day. So just use that as evidence. If you're a client of mine and we have a content strategy and you're showing up online, this is not an excuse for you not to stick with your strategy, because that's probably what works for you. But this is evidence of just how many different ways there are to build a business. I'm going to give you just 2 other examples. And the reason I want you to have these examples is so you can see the evidence. And so this isn't just like, oh, this is stuff Kim's saying for fun. This is like practical, like these are real people and real evidence, but also just so you can see some of those examples of like just how many different ways there are. So I have another client who built a 6-figure business from 0 to 6 figures in our first year working together. And she dabbles in a little social media, but the majority of her strategy and client base has been from exactly what we're talking about here. It's been from getting and reaching out to the low-hanging fruit, right? The network and people in front of her. And I will give everyone a really simple strategy before we close on that I think can be very useful. But reaching out to those people and then doing essentially networking events and speaking to open up that network for her. And that's worked really beautifully. And that's worked really beautifully, again, because this is really congruent to her skill set, to her business. But that has been what's allowed her to build a 6-figure business, and now what's helped her to double that income this year. And that marketing strategy has really stayed consistent, and now she's laying in a little bit of social media, but most of the traction, I'd say probably for her, 80 to 90% of her business is still coming in from those offline opportunities. And again, that's because this is what works for her. This is what feels good for her, but it's also because she's actively working that, right? It's not like, oh, I hate social media, so I'm just going to give social media the middle finger, or, oh, social media doesn't work for me, so I'm just going to bury my head in the sand, or say business doesn't work for me. I don't even think she thinks social media doesn't work for her. It's none of that noise. It's more, this is what I know works for me as her story. And so she shows up and really commits to working that. So she schedules regularly networking events. She shows up regularly for those. She regularly reaches out. She's really, really on top of reaching out to her network and her people, and staying in contact with people, and staying in contact with leads, and really leverages word of mouth marketing. But she's really strategic about that and putting those opportunities in front of people. And so that works for her to make that money, to get booked out, and to increase more clients. These, again, are all very, I think, foundational business principles. I think we just sometimes unintentionally give our power away in business. And I think we just get to keep taking our power back and applying these principles in the ways that work for us. Okay, and the last example here, this is a client who got booked out within our first 6 months working together. She had a handful of clients, but she raised her rates while we were working together, which was really fun, and got booked out. And she's not on social media. She does have an email list, however, just so you can see like the different nuances here. But her strategy has been twofold here. It's exactly what we talked about with the first client in terms of taking those 2 daily sales actions. And she's been so on top of reaching out to her personal network and to people she doesn't know every day. And again, I think what I really want to give credit to all of my clients who do this on and offline, right? We do this online as well. I think sometimes we just, if we're offline, we think online is less vulnerable. If we're online, we think offline is less vulnerable. We tend to flip-flop either way. And I think just seeing either way, it's vulnerable. Either way, you're putting yourself out there. Either way, you're having to make the ask. Either way, you're opening yourself up to rejection. Either way, those mindset pieces come up. Either way, you need to have a sales process, right? Either way, all of the business pieces are there. One way is not better or easier. It's just which one works for you that you can commit to and show up for. But this client has just been really, really great about every freaking day. She checks in with me in Basecamp to let me know she's done those contact points, and they've just stacked up and added up for her and compounded for her. The other thing she's been really great about is, because she does prefer in-person, she just prefers that connection point so much more. She regularly does like in-person events, and she's great at reaching out to people to fill those, and then collecting information like emails and reaching out to people to make an offer. So she's just really great at leveraging that opportunity when she meets people, and that's where her email list comes in. So that's how she's built her email list. So she does share content, and she shares content with her email list regularly. She's done a lot of work around that to really refine her messaging and her content. It's just something she promotes more offline than she does using social media. And so I think that's actually a really nice hybrid example of someone who's both leveraging content, right, and a list. It's just they're not leveraging social media. And I'm sure she'll start to use that more. It's something she'll probably start to add in. But this is just the way she's built her business up to this point. So I think that's just another really great example, and some really practical action steps there that you can see that can work to take you from a handful of clients to booked out in a relatively short amount of time. Hey Marie, nice to have you here. What I find with all of these in terms of the strategy, and I think what's helpful to see, is all of these clients are really clear on their business model. They're really clear on their offer. They're really clear on their message, and they're really clear on their sales process. Meaning when they're doing a reach out, when they're meeting someone at a networking event, they're very clear on what they're connecting to someone about and what to be curious about and what next step to invite someone into. And so for everyone here, what I think can be very helpful to think about is whether you're leveraging offline or online, to think through, where are you lacking clarity on any of those pieces? And if you're not lacking clarity, that's beautiful. And then what is that really simple next step in your sales process for when you connect with someone? Because that's the piece they're all really being mindful to reach out with. And for my clients who are leveraging a lot of the low-hanging fruit strategy, right? Reaching to people offline, something I find really helpful for all of them. This is from The Prosperous Coach. Has anyone read The Prosperous Coach by Rich Litvin and what's the other author's name? It's Rich Litvin and it's another old school coach. Both of them I really respect. I don't consume a lot of other coaches' content, but Rich Litvin's work in general, I probably reference him a lot. I really appreciate his philosophy and have taken a coaching program actually from him. And in The Prosperous Coach, a lot of what he talks about is literally a lot of what we're talking about here in terms of, and this applies to not having, this could be if you have an OBM business, if you have a design business, he's talking about coaching in general, but his whole approach to being a prosperous coach is really just opening up conversations and just coaching more. And you don't need social media and you don't need a website. And so a lot of these clients who are using offline marketing strategies, who are reaching out to people, we're applying a lot of that philosophy, and we're really looking at how can they open up a conversation first and foremost. And then really what I find to be very helpful, and I don't know if this actually comes from that book or if comes from another place. I just always like to give credit where I can. But what I find to be really helpful is if you're opening up conversations with people and you're going to apply the low-hanging fruit strategy and reach out to people in your network. Let's say everyone here is going to challenge everyone and say, okay, it's Tuesday, so we've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You've got 3 days to reach out to 2 people a day. That's 6 people in the next 3 days. Everyone here can do that. Everyone has 6 people in their personal network they can reach out to. What I find can be really helpful is instead of reaching out to 6 people and saying, hey, do you want to buy from me? Hey, I'm a designer. Do you want a website from me? We don't even know if the person in front of you needs what you have to sell. I think it's a whole another sales conversation about why that can feel kind of yucky and gross on both sides. What can be helpful is to reach out to someone, right? To open up that conversation, to see how they're doing, to check in with the people in your network, and then just to let them know what you're up to and let them know whatever your next step offer is and who that's really great for, and to let them know you'd so appreciate it if they know anyone who would benefit from that. This does come from Rich Litvin. I can never say his name. This does come from him because the way he frames this in his book, which I think is just a really helpful, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but he frames it as, if you know anyone who would benefit from a coaching session from me or from a design web audit from me, I'm giving away these 30-minute website audits, and be so grateful if you pass it along. I work really well with people who are referrals, or I only work with people who are referrals, and I work best with people who, I know through friends of mine. You're welcome to say it's a gift from you, or you can say this is a gift from you. I probably would just say it a little bit more along the lines, if you know anyone who benefit from this, be so grateful, and it's completely free gift for me to them. Be so happy if you pass this along to them. But either way, what you're doing there is you're not selling directly to the person you're reaching out to. And I think when we're selling to someone who hasn't raised their hand to be sold to, that's when these sorts of strategies can start to feel really funky, right? I have 300 unread messages probably in my DMs from people who are selling me something I never raised my hand to be sold to, and bless their heart, I give them all the credit for hustling and taking action, and I'm not mad at them, but I'm probably not going to get to those emails, and they're probably not going to it's very unlikely that that's going to land on me. I have hired people that way before, but I think you all get what I'm saying here. But if someone I already have a relationship with, right? If someone I already have a know, like, and trust with, if my best friend or my acquaintance sends me an email or sends me a DM to check in with me, to see how my life is going, to see how my business is going, to tell me, hey, I've been designing websites. Did you know that? And I love designing websites. Like, how's your business going, Kim? And they're like, I'm doing a free website audit. They've been going amazing. Every time I do this for someone, we find 2 ways to help them get better conversions just by making these small, simple tweaks. Do you know anyone, Kim, who would benefit that you could give this free audit to? You can say it's a gift from you if there's a client of yours who would benefit, right? I'm so much more likely to hear that and be like, oh, 2 things are going to happen. My brain is going to hear that and think, I want to be helpful. I trust my friend. I think they're amazing. Of course I know 2 people who could benefit from this. I'll pass this along. The other thing my brain is going to do if I'm in the market is thinking, oh, I haven't checked my website in 5 years. I bet I could use this. Why didn't I take my friend up on this? I trust my friend, right? And so you can see how then suddenly there's quite a lot of opportunity presented in a way that's a lot more conducive to getting a yes that isn't, hey, will you buy my thing? And it can feel a lot better to reach out that way. So just to break that strategy again, this is not my like brilliant genius strategy. This is something that I have learned and picked up from other places. And this is something I've seen play out and work so well for clients. So I want to offer this to everyone here. And I think the biggest hurdle here is not so much, can you do this? Everyone here can do this strategy. Everyone can reach out to 6. I really challenge everyone, reach out to 6 people between today and Friday. You can do that. Everyone has 6 people. And if you reach out to 6 people, I think the challenge is, one, getting over your own self and stuff about reaching out to 6 people, you know, right? All the stuff that comes up, which is great because this is going to show you the mindset work that you probably need to do, right? This is probably going to show you the mindset opportunities. And then 2, I think the really big thing here is seeing what is that next step in your sales process. If you're not really clear on that and how to position that, that's probably going to be the other opportunity. And so let that be more a place to highlight. These are the opportunities for me and my business in terms of what's going to help me get booked out on or offline, instead of this can't work for me or this won't work for me. I think this gets to be more of that place where it's like, oh, I've got some mindset trash around people judging me, around getting rejected, around this isn't going to work, around none of this works. Oh, I'm not really clear on that next step offer to invite people into. Great, brilliant. Those are the problems to solve, not Instagram doesn't work, not offline marketing doesn't work, not my marketing doesn't work. Hopefully that's tracking for everyone. Just seeing here if there's anything else I wanted to close you with as I fall off my chair. I think those were the main pieces there. As I started over my words, the note I have in all capital letters for myself to remind everyone here is what I hope you'll take from this conversation is really and truly seeing there is not one way. There is not a cut and paste formula. There is not a magic platform. There is not a magic bullet. Business really and truly can be simple, and the more simple you can make it, the better, right? What we said is the more basic you can make your strategy, the more bank you'll make. And it's not social media or not social media. It's not social media is good or bad. It's not online is good or bad, right? I told you when I came into the online space, social media was like no one could book clients online. Now it's no one can book clients offline. What I really want you to see is going back to this is all about the clarity around your business, your model, your messaging, what works for you, right? This is all about the mindset and the belief that marketing works and your strategy works, and that if you work whatever platform, wherever you're applying your strategy, right, on or offline, those are just the platforms. They're not the strategy. Your strategy is what we were talking about at the beginning. There's a lot that goes into strategy, but just in terms of opening a relationship, deepening that relationship, getting curious about people's problems and how you can solve them and getting better at solving those problems and making those offers, right? It's those pieces there, and then you can apply that anywhere you want. That's the piece that works. And then really taking action on that consistently. Hopefully you heard through all of those examples, all of those clients were doing something different. All of those clients have different mindset challenges and hurdles we had to work through. All of those clients have different pieces in their strategy that felt sticky. But I hope what you can hear from them is all of those clients are taking consistent action on whatever various strategy they're using. And that is really the part that blew up their business. And all of them were taking very imperfect action when they got booked out for the first time. And I think that is really helpful to hear as well. I had a conversation with a client this morning about that, and we were talking about this whole idea sometimes in our online space, when we hear so much about mindset and manifesting, I think sometimes the narrative can also strangely become, it's not until you have a perfect mindset and you're perfectly high vibe that you can get booked out in your business or make money. And your mindset is more your experience that you're going to have when you create results, and it just makes things easier, or it creates more friction and resistance that slows you down from getting results. But it's not like you are required to have a perfect mindset or a perfect strategy or perfect action or perfect anything to get results. And so I hope that is something you're hearing through those examples as well. And then, of course, choose online or offline. I love both, but I hope you will play with this, and I invite you to look at every strategy works if you work it. How can you get clear on what is a strategy that works for you and really commit to that? And if you already have a strategy, how can you lean into committing that even more and seeing one strategy is not better than the other, they all work. If it's feeling out of alignment or sticky, you can also see every strategy works, so permission to choose something else. Invite everyone to play with looking at where the low-hanging fruit opportunities for you in business, and to start to play with that mindset that there are opportunities and clients everywhere if you open your eyes and look for them. And Then the last note I have here is just to notice, where are you hiding, kind of what we were talking at the beginning of this live stream, where are you using social media as a way to hide, or to say, like, this is a way I don't have to do the vulnerable thing to reach out to someone to take that sales action. And maybe where are you blaming a platform instead of really looking at either the mindset or strategy piece there, or the action piece there, that you can really work to create those results in your business. I hope this was helpful for y'all. If you have questions, reflections, drop them for me or drop them on the replay. And a reminder, we are picking one winner for a free content that stands out in sales coaching session, because I missed y'all so fucking much and I'm so happy to be back. So just leave a comment, leave an emoji. We will pick a winner at the end of the week. And then next week, hopefully we will have all of this twistedness sorted out, and I'll be in the other direction. If not, we'll go live this way again. But I love y'all, and I will see you next week.